Hi, everyone. This is an interesting interview that I had today, being the 22nd of January 2022, with Niladri Roy, who's the CEO of Little App, which is basically a app that has transitioned from being initially an on-demand taxi app. They've added, food delivery services. They've now also started to have this broad ambition to transform their app into actually everything app, or what we often refer to as a super app. What's interesting is during this conversation, Niladri shared with me many different perspectives about their business at Little App. Some of the things that stood out to me is that they're definitely a very business to business focused business in terms of the on demand space. They're very much moving into the electrification of their services, and this is something that's just really getting off the ground, where they're looking at deploying various types of electronic, or rather electric vehicles in the marketplace, and increasingly looking at the fact that they've also built a formidable footprint in the region. They're not just in Kenya. They have very big ambitions and plans. And I hope over the next 25 odd minutes, you'll see a lot of value in hearing what they have to say. And this is Moses Kemibaro. Thank you very much to listening to my podcast, Pure Digital Passion. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the interview with Niladri Roy, who's the COO at Little App, one of the most exciting mobility on-demand platforms that we have in Kenya. And I'd just like maybe to start off by asking Niladri to share a little bit of background about himself from a professional and personal perspective, and then that'll really set the tone for the rest of this conversation. But very welcome, Niladri.
Thank you, Moses. Thanks for giving us an opportunity to come and introduce ourselves. Hi, guys. My name is Niladri Roy. I represent a company called Little in the space of mobility and super app. So we started with the mobility services, but right now we are serving pretty much as a super app, fast growing in Africa. The journey actually began in a couple of years back as a spin-off of our parent company called Craft Silicon. The company is pretty well known in Africa and other geographies as one of the fintech leader in the market, catering for microfinance and the cooperative movements as a technology partner, and helped in financial inclusions in many countries. I mean, Craft is working in more than 40 countries across 4 continents. So I was fortunate enough to actually serve this community along with Craft Silicon. And then a couple of years back, we thought of getting into another space, into mobility and consumer, food and delivery space. So that is how Little started off, and the journey began. And right now, we basically, we are trying to ramping up our operations in multiple countries in East Africa. We started from Kenya as our headquarter, but then over a period of time in last 2-3 years, we expanded our operations in countries like Uganda, Tanzania, and 2 more countries, Ethiopia and Somalia. So that's where we are in. Thank you.
Oh, I was not even aware of the geographical footprint. I knew that you were pretty visible in Kenya. I wasn't too aware about the regional footprint. So clearly the business has been growing, yes?
Well, yes, the business is growing because, we are still a startup organization. We believe that in a mentality of a startup, we can grow faster. And we are backed by our own financial support. Obviously, when we started a little bit of support from our parent company, Craft Silicon, but we never gone out in the market. But we actually kind of fully supported ourselves. And from the beginning, we are profitable organizations. And that is how we grown. And then we actually grown into other markets. Yes, so we are building up that market presence pretty faster.
So tell me a little bit more about the super app side of the app, because I think, to be very honest, I'm not aware of this. I would like to hear more about this other new, shall I call it pivot or extension of the functionality and the value proposition?
Yes. So we realized over a period of time that people do have multiple applications when it comes to the buying patterns. Whether you are buying food, or you're buying groceries, or you wanted to watch a movie, or you you order for your pharmaceutical products. So you have multiple applications, and people are tired of having multiple applications on the same platform. They need to have a seamless experience under one platform. So if one platform can give you the seamless experience, that is where the concept of super app coming in. And we have seen that phenomenal growth in Southeast Asian countries in the space of super apps. So one side, they're providing the mobility services, whether it's a taxi hailing or it's a boda hailing services. At the same point of time, you can actually apply for a loan, or you can actually buy your movie tickets, or you can actually order for your call a doctor or book a doctor appointment, or you can actually get your grocery delivered at your home. So the whole journey is basically a consumer. So keeping in mind the consumer as a focal point, as a nucleus of the whole journey, and then you revolve around, because you need to bring all the services under the same platform to your consumers. That is where the super app concept comes in. So we haven't seen such a move in Africa in last 5 to 10 years. I think the super app concept is pretty new here, but we have seen that growth in Southeast Asian countries earlier. So we wanted to get into that space very fast.
Brilliant.
So, yeah.
I think it's fantastic, because I think you got to look at the consumer as an individual with multiple needs, and then your app is able to sort of meet them across the different use cases that happens. And I know that in Southeast Asia, I think it's Grab that has done this very effectively, so that they are now doing loans, and they're helping small SMEs to sell products and so forth. And especially during, I think, the pandemic, their business model really took off in that part of the world.
That's right.
So yeah, I do have a number of things I still want to ask you about. And I think for me, the most exciting prospect right now when I look at Little is this evolution towards electric mobility, where I believe in the last few months, you've launched motorcycles that are powered by electricity or electrical means. You've also recently launched the bicycles, the e-bikes, and also most recently, and I think the one that really caught my attention and got us into this conversation was actually the scooters. And maybe you can sort of go through those three scenarios and tell us a little bit more about how you're using them, how you're deploying them, and also we can talk about some of the the commercial implications in terms of savings and how that's sort of evolving as a business.
Fine. So maybe I can just take you a little bit back on giving you a little bit statistics of the whole ecosystem. So our ecosystem is run by not only us is coming as a tech partner, because we are the backbone of the technology, where the technology is built, but our partners, whether it's drivers or it's riders on the boda, or it's the merchant, or it's our customers, which is also segregated between corporate customers and retail customers. So they all part equally as a major contributor to the growth of the whole ecosystem. So if you look at our focus in the ride-hailing services, from the day one, we have been focusing on the corporate side of the business. Because in the corporate side of the business, why we focused on? Because we wanted to create the differentiation in the market. Because we have many players in the market who are focusing on the retail side of the business, because that is where the visibility comes in, but that is where the price war also comes in. That is where the much steep competition comes in, because it's more like a price war we have observed. But when you talk about the corporates and a solution-centric approach to the market, that is where your customers comes in, because your corporate customer will never let you you will never actually leave you just because your price is a little bit expensive. Even if you are a little bit expensive, but what kind of values you are actually adding up to them and to their life every single day, and what are the new services you are bringing on board. So that's where we are actually focusing, and we are growing very faster. We look at our focus in the other markets also, it's always been our corporate focus. On the other side of it, when we talk about the super app, the other stakeholders like the riders who are actually kind of delivering goods or the services from the merchant, grocery merchants or the food merchants to our corporate customers and the retail customers. They have been doing it relentlessly. So we have a list of drivers and riders on the platform, which is phenomenally growing, and list of corporate customers and the retail customers is also phenomenally growing. And then with the list of merchants we are bringing on board, so the whole ecosystem, the growth ratio is very healthy. Then also we need to work with the climate change, which is a big subject across the globe. Recently it happened in the Europe and Glasgow. Earlier one is in the Paris climate, so I think we are in sync with what the world is moving and towards where that is moving, because every country, their agenda is zero carbon emission. So I think as an organization which is focusing on the mobility and the delivery, and that is where you consume a lot of fossil oil and stuff like that, but how to reduce it, because we need to be in sync with what our country leaders are actually thinking of. So that's how we started this initiative, as can we actually put a green initiative and introduce our delivery services. The riders can actually take the little bikes, which is completely 100% electric bikes. So we have worked with our partner, it's called Fika Mobility. Fika is basically our partner on the mobility services. So they are helping us with this electricity mobility services. We are currently actually delivering some of our groceries and foods through our motorbikes, which is completely 100% electric bikes. And also that's on the delivery side of it, but we have an ambition that at least the carbon emission we need to reduce. Even we can introduce some of our vehicles which is electric driven,
the passengers,
the passenger vehicles. Okay. So that's where we are heading. But also we think that country like Kenya, where people like we are the common people. So we take our own vehicle, or we take the taxi hailing services in the market, but we don't have any provision that can we have our own vehicle, which is basically electric powered. Either it could be a scooter or it could be a bike, which is basically just a cycle paddling bike, but with electric powered. So we thought of for the pedestrians, we thought of for the Nuananchis, who can actually kind of rent out a bike or a scooter, because if you look at the CBD here, the CBD is very, very congested, and I'm sure that you and I, when we actually walk into a CBD, we fear to just walk on the pavement because sometimes it's scary, because there are a lot of vehicle and stuff like that. But if we have a way to commute ourselves, that I don't need my vehicle, right? I can drop my vehicle somewhere outside the CBD, then I can take an electric bike, which bike is docked in the docking station, and this bike can be found using the application, which is Little App, and you can actually spot the bike where the bike is. You can walk up to the bike, you unlock the bike, you pay the bike, based on the hours you are going to consume. Then you do all your stuff inside the CBD, and then you actually kind of drop the bike at another docking station.
Okay.
So one side you are taking that initiative, and you are helping that green initiative as taken by all the major countries in the world during this climate week in Glasgow. We are in line with that, and we are also decongesting the counties or the countries, by pushing the green initiatives. So that is the whole idea, that or maybe some of the areas, CBD is one of the examples. Some of the areas, like we have the Nairobi University, or we have Konza City, or we have some of the areas where we have a huge space, but we can introduce this kind of electric bikes just to make sure that the commuters can use it, and they can actually reach to their destination much more faster with the zero carbon emission. Okay. So that was the whole idea of introducing the scooter, e-bike and e-scooters. But however, we haven't rolled out yet. It's actually in a planning stage right now. But this is what Little is thinking of.
Okay. I think one of the things, based on the way you describe the model, which I know, of course, works very well in Europe and North America and Asia, there's going to be a lot of consumer behavior change, I think, required. The idea that, park your car, get on a scooter, get on a bicycle. I don't see, I see that Kenyans are going to need to adapt to that. But then again, before we had these sort of on-demand taxis and so forth, we used to have a guy who would be the guy we used for all our movements, and then now we do it on demand. So I'm pretty sure that Kenyans, known for their reputation for being early adopters or being innovative, will take this up very quickly. But I think a bigger question that comes to mind is obviously the economics behind this, because we live in a market and a continent where electricity is not readily available. Quite often, there's the question of the cost of electricity. And I'm just curious about the operational elements of that. And then the other part of it is the infrastructure. How does the infrastructure cope with these innovations? Meaning that when I think about the scooters, I don't, if you look at most of the infrastructure in Kenya or in Nairobi, it's not designed for scooters. People for walking on the road, you're fighting with matatus. So I think two questions. One is the economics around electricity as the driver of this technology and our limited infrastructure for that, and also the where the roads and the pavements and how these will be supported. So I'm curious to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah. So as you rightly said, Moses, because this is a very proven practice in Europe, because I think Europe has been doing this e-scooter and e-bikes quite a long time. But in African countries, particularly in Kenya or somewhere else where somebody is initiating, I think it's going to be the first mover advantage. Of course, first mover is always going to have some sort of teething issues, some challenges. So we are ready for that, and we know that some of the challenges will be there, which we are going to face. One of the challenges would be the operational challenges, how we are going to tackle the situations, whether the road infrastructure is good enough, whether we are actually in line with our urban design or urban planning with the government and stuff like that. I think all these challenges are there, and it is going to be addressed because fast mover is always getting advantages and challenges. So I think we thought of those things, and we are ready to actually check in when we actually move that direction. So in terms of the electricities and other challenges, so these bikes are very portable, so the battery can be swappable. We have the swappable batteries in case the battery is running out of the charge and there is no charging stations nearby. Then of course we will have a rescue van to go and swap the battery so that the vehicle can actually move. Now, since every bike will be monitored by GPS system, and we can monitor those bikes wherever they are. If they are left abandoned somewhere, or somebody is actually taking the bike outside the geofencing, area, we will get an alert. We will see that how to rescue this bike.
Okay. And what about the cost of the electricity versus using traditional petrol per kilometer and so forth? I'm just trying to think the economics of when you're pulling from the electricity, how does that work out economically?
It is very very cost effective, because I can give you the example, because now we haven't put a commercial model for the scooters and the bikes, but for the deliveries I can tell you that it's almost like 1/4 the cost of the electricity vis-a-vis on the petrol.
Wow.
So the petrol bike is much more efficient, because full charge, you can actually have 100 kilometers of those bikes, the electric bikes. The delivery boys are actually taking every day. And so we have some tie-up with some of the merchants where they can swap the batteries. In case the battery is running out of the charge, they can just go there and swap the battery. I think the battery is it's like a rental services. So the rent price will take you another 100 kilometers. So that economics is pretty cost effective. It's almost like 1/3 to 1/4 the cost which the petrol and the diesel would cost you.
And of course, you're charging from I presume within your facilities you have the charging.
Yes. It's the normal charging stations. Absolutely. Normal.
Do you have to get a special provision from Kenya Power, or is it how do you do it? Is it special equipment that how should I put this? allows you to charge like 100 batteries in a go? Is that the sort of setup?
No, since we have done just a pilot a month back, so
Okay.
we are currently actually in a kind of understanding mode and observation mode. What are
Testing.
the challenges?
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
when we are planning actually getting all this data, then we probably have that kind of planning and engage the authorities where we can get some sort of support.
Okay, great. And then the other question I have for you is obviously, forecasting, looking the next 2 to 5 years. Where do you see this going? Because I think the whole electrical vehicle or the EV space is still very much, or electric mobility is very much at the beginning. It's a very nascent market in this country and also all of Africa. We hear other names in the market that are also trying to do the same. Of course, the difference being that you're in the service provision side versus, building the machinery and so forth. But where do you see the picture in the next 2 to 5 years from your perspective? What sort of key trends do you see coming into this space?
I think this space is going to grow faster because, of course, this is like it's under the green initiatives. Across the world is actually thinking of how we can address to the climate change, because you know that this is going to be the biggest objective to save the world. So what is alternative? Because if you look at these manufacturers in the world, Toyota, Tesla, GM, you name it, actually, I think they are spending more and more energy and focus building the EVs rather than going into traditional vehicle on the fossil oil. Yes, we might see it a little bit later, but I see the movement is much more faster in the developing world. Some of the countries have actually committed that by 2040 or 2050 will be completely green, so there will be zero emissions and stuff like that. So I think this space is moving faster. If I take up some example, like because I'm coming from my country is actually India, where I was born and brought up. So India movement on the electric vehicles is much faster. Some of the city like Bangalore and all, I think we have seen such EV introduction much before, like almost like 10, 12 years back. I can tell you Mahindra is one of the pioneer in India in terms of initiating this green energy by in the mobility space. So that way I can tell you that the movement on the electric vehicle space is much more faster in some of the countries, massive country like India and so, other countries in East and also in the West side of it. In Africa, probably yes, just because we do not have our local manufacturers. We purely depend on where to get it from Japan and other countries, because we are actually buying the cars from there. We don't have the local assemblies and stuff. So that movement will be a little bit delayed, but I believe the government is planning. It takes time, but it's going to come, because with this climate change is going to be a subject for everybody. So everybody is working on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, guiding lights, looking at, as we were discussing earlier, the likes of Norway, 2021, they sold, is it over 80% brand new cars were electric. And I think you're right, the sustainability aspect, the climate change, emissions, I mean, it's a big, big issue. But I'm always like, again, just like the adoption of the internet, the smartphone, my personal view is that this has a transformational opportunity where, Africa and other emerging markets can leapfrog some of the challenges that other markets have had if we adopt this quickly. Although I think in the case of Norway, the big thing is that the government had a big role to play in making sure that this becomes the mainstream, and they're putting the laws and the regulations to accelerate that process so that all the ecosystem partners are on board. I'm really excited, and I'm looking forward to seeing these. I've never tried a scooter before, so maybe that's one of the things I'll come pay you a visit one day and see if I can take a ride on one. Absolutely. So I think the next time we do get together, it'll be more practical and hands-on and having a look at them. But thank you so much for making time for this session. I do appreciate it, and I want to wish you all the best. As one of the guiding lights in the EV space for Kenya and Africa, and also within the region. As you mentioned, you're all over the market in the region as well. Thank you, and it's a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Moses. Thank you all.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a good day. Bye.